onto your butts.
Here we go!
This is Camp Clash. Alright, Wastelanders, coming up next is the only builder brave enough to place 500 objects just to create a camp that still looks like a raider yard sale. This man treats budget limits like suggestions, budget limits like a personal enemy, and somehow turns every build into a fire hazard with lighting bright enough to blind a deathclaw. But somehow, against all odds, it actually works. Give it up for the king of chaos himself, Buddha 2 Dope.
Welcome, warriors, to Camp Clash, the ultimate Fallout 76 camp building competition. Today isn't about who has the most caps, the rarest loot, or the highest level. Today is about creativity, survival style, and who can turn the wasteland into something unforgettable. In a world filled with radiation, mutants, and chaos, your camp says everything about you. Maybe it's a fortified bunker built for war. Maybe it's a cozy roadside diner, a trading hub, a hidden vault, or something completely insane that somehow still works. Whatever your style, this is your chance to show it off. Camp Clash is all about imagination, design, and bringing the Fallout universe to life. Every structure tells a story, and today we get to explore those stories together. We will be looking for creativity, detail, functionality, overall impressions, and the all-important wow factor. And this competition is only one part of an amazing community of builders. If Camp Clash isn't running, you can still show off your creations through the weekly Top 5 submissions. A chance for your camp to be featured alongside some of the best builders in the Wasteland. If you want to take part, the link is in the description. But most importantly, this is about celebrating the creativity and passion that keeps Appalachia alive. So support each other, explore every camp, and enjoy the incredible talent on display today. Builders, get your turrets ready, power up those generators, and prepare to impress. Welcome to Camp Clash, where the wasteland becomes art.
Get ready to turn up the energy. Our next guest judge is a true vibe curator. From underground grooves to crowd-moving classics, this builder brings style, flavor, and serious dance floor authority to every camp they touch. Show some love and make some noise for Dirty Disco.
So I am wondering, how come we have never seen you dancing and grooving?
I want you to think about that very deeply.
Yes, I know you are just very shy.
No, that's not it, you numbskull.
Is it that arrow you took in the knee while you went adventuring?
Buddha, have you been smoking the wrong kind of tulip, you nitwit?
I guess it's just because you can't dance.
No, it's because I'm an AI-generated voice, you idiot. Just start the showcases. We are going to aviate with Deviate.
Alright everyone, next up we've got DV8. And this man didn't just build a camp, he built a full-blown floating warship that looks like it's about 3 seconds away from declaring martial law over all of Appalachia. The moment you see this thing hovering in the sky, your first reaction is immediate panic. Because this isn't one of those cozy little wasteland homes with a garden and a couple of turrets. No, this looks like the final boss of camp building. The silhouette alone is intimidating. Massive structure, heavy armor plating, giant cannons everywhere. This thing feels less like a camp and more like a mobile invasion force. And honestly, if you saw this approaching through the fog in Fallout lore, you'd immediately start apologizing for crimes you didn't even commit. The idea itself is incredibly original. We've seen airships before, sure, but DV-8 took that concept and turned it into a flying fortress of absolute destruction. And somehow, despite the scale and complexity, the execution is incredibly clean. That's the impressive part, because large builds can easily become visual chaos. You add too much, and suddenly your camp looks like someone dropped a junkyard out of a vertibird. But DV-8 keeps everything focused. Every detail feels intentional. Every section contributes to the overall identity of the build. This ship looks dangerous. Not movie prop dangerous. Actually dangerous. Like somewhere on board, there's definitely a commander yelling, "Target acquired," for absolutely no reason. And let's talk about the cannons for a second because, wow, this thing is armed to the brim. Cannons on the sides, cannons on the deck, cannons probably aimed at neighboring zip codes. At this point, I'm not even sure this is a camp anymore. I think DV-8 accidentally recreated a pre-war military project. Honestly, half the people touring this build probably walked in peacefully and immediately felt like they should leave before getting scanned for contraband. The detailing here is incredibly well executed too. Pipes, support structures, mechanical elements, defensive sections. There's so much packed into this ship that every angle gives you something new to look at. And the best part is that it all works together beautifully. Nothing feels random. Nothing feels forced. It genuinely looks like a functioning floating battleship held together by steel, firepower, and pure wasteland aggression. And somehow, DV-8 managed to make this thing feel heavy. That's difficult in Fallout building. Floating structures often end up looking weightless or awkward, but this ship has presence. It feels massive. You can almost hear the engines rumbling underneath it. You look up at it and immediately think, yeah, that thing definitely has a crew of morally questionable people on board. And honestly, the atmosphere this build creates is incredible. At night especially, it probably looks terrifying. Imagine wandering through Appalachia and suddenly seeing this giant armed warship floating above the trees like the Brotherhood of Steel finally snapped. I would immediately fast travel away. And despite how intimidating the build is, there's still a ton of artistry in it. The shapes are well balanced, the structure is readable, and the detailing enhances the build instead of overwhelming it. That balance is hard to pull off. Too much detail and the ship becomes cluttered. Too little and it loses impact. DV-8 somehow found the perfect middle ground. Also, let's appreciate the confidence required to build something like this. Most people build homes. DV-8 said, no, I require airborne artillery. Respect. This is the kind of camp that makes other builders stop and stare for a while trying to understand how it was even constructed. You walk around it thinking, how is this floating? How did they line all this up? How many hours did this take? Should we be concerned? And honestly, yes, a little, but in the best possible way.
ND is back.
All right, Warriors, next up we've got ND. And honestly, at this point, I'm convinced ND doesn't build camps the same way the rest of us do. Most of us load into Fallout 76 thinking, maybe I'll build a nice little base today. ND logs in looking like a scientist about to violate several international laws of physics. This time, ND has created a full science fiction laboratory, and the second you step inside, you immediately realize two things. First, this place looks incredible. Second, something has definitely escaped containment. The atmosphere here is absolutely insane. It feels like one of those secret underground facilities in sci-fi movies where the scientists keep saying, we're close to a breakthrough, right before the emergency alarms start blasting and everyone dies horribly. And in classic ND fashion, the detailing is just completely out of control. Every room has layers upon layers of visual storytelling. Consoles, wires, experiments, machinery, storage areas, control stations, mysterious glowing tubes filled with questionable liquids. This place feels alive. Not alive in a comforting way, by the way. Alive in a, there's probably something breathing in the walls kind of way. You walk through this camp and immediately start inventing lore in your head. Oh, this must be the reactor room. This is probably where they tested dangerous technology. This hallway definitely contains at least one unethical experiment. And honestly, the scariest part is how believable it all feels. The layout flows perfectly. Every section connects naturally into the next. Nothing feels random or slapped together. It genuinely looks like a functioning sci-fi facility instead of a camp made from budget pieces and pure determination. And that's where ND becomes dangerous. Because somehow, this man uses prefabs like they were personally designed for him by Bethesda. The rest of us place a prefab and immediately think, cool, guess this is my house now. ND places a prefab and transforms it into a cinematic environment that looks like it belongs in an expansion DLC. It's honestly absurd. At this point, I'm convinced ND could take a garden shed prefab and somehow turn it into a fully operational interdimensional research station. The prefab integration here is flawless. You don't even notice where one section begins and another ends because everything blends together so naturally. Meanwhile, when I try to connect prefabs, my camp looks like two buildings are socially distancing from each other. And can we talk about the lighting for a second? Because sci-fi lighting is hard. Too little lighting and your build looks unfinished. Too much lighting and suddenly your camp looks like a nightclub sponsored by Vault-Tec. But ND somehow finds the perfect balance. The glow effects, the shadows, the illuminated workstations, the reflections, every room feels cinematic. There are moments where the lighting hits just right and suddenly you feel like you're inside a Fallout cutscene. Half the people touring this camp probably stopped moving entirely and just stared at walls for 30 seconds. Not because they were lost, because the lighting was that good. And honestly, this lab feels incredibly dangerous. Like, there's absolutely no way this place passed safety inspection. Somewhere in this facility, there's definitely a terminal entry saying, "Reminder, please stop storing radioactive waste next to the coffee machine." Or, "Containment breach on level 3 again. You just know there's one scientist in here surviving entirely on caffeine and bad decisions." That's the thing about ND builds. You can't appreciate them fully in one walkthrough. The first time you explore, you notice the big picture. Wow, this looks amazing. The second time, you start noticing the smaller details. Then by the third walkthrough, you're crouched in a hallway, staring at a toolbox, thinking, wait, why is this placed perfectly too? It's actually unfair.
Neon wizardry with the Akiras.
Alright everyone, next up we've got the Akiras, who apparently looked at Fallout 76 and said, you know what this game needs? A giant cyberpunk scrapyard airship. And somehow they were absolutely correct. This build looks like a floating city powered entirely by stolen technology, bad decisions, and enough wiring to crash the Brotherhood of Steel servers. The detailing here is completely off the charts. Every inch of this camp has something going on. Pipes, cables, machinery, neon signs, random bits of scrap somehow turned into art. It's the kind of build where you notice something new every 5 seconds. You walk through it once and think, Wow, this is impressive. You walk through it twice and suddenly notice 17 details you somehow missed because your brain was still processing the fact that someone managed to turn rusty junk into a cyberpunk masterpiece. And the lighting? Absolutely godly. Seriously, this camp has better lighting than most modern apartments. The neon glow, the shadows, the atmosphere, it all comes together perfectly. Half the time you don't even know what you're looking at, but it looks cool, and honestly, that's peak cyberpunk energy. At night, this thing probably becomes visible from space. Somewhere in Appalachia, there's a confused settler saying, "Why does the sky look like a nightclub?" And despite all the chaos, all the scrap, all the machinery, stacked on more machinery, it somehow still feels cohesive. That's the scary part. Builds like this should look like a disaster, but instead, it looks like Bethesda accidentally hired an actual environmental artist. Meanwhile, the rest of us place one neon sign and suddenly our camp looks like a failed taco truck. This airship feels alive, like at any second it's about to take off, disappear into the toxic skies, and charge you 500 caps for Wi-Fi. And you know this is the kind of camp where players stop pretending to tour and just stand there staring upward like, how the hell did they even build this? The answer is probably sleep, deprivation, and forbidden knowledge. Massive respect to the Akiras for creating one of the coolest cyberpunk builds we've seen. Ridiculously creative, insanely detailed, and lit so well it could probably guide aircraft safely through Appalachia. At one point, I genuinely stopped touring the camp and started investigating it like a detective. Why is there a generator connected to this? Where does this pipe even go? Is this entire ship being held together by optimism? And somehow, the answer is yes. This airship feels like the kind of place where a cyberpunk mechanic would charge you 3,000 caps to repair your power armor, then somehow make it worse. You just know there's an engineer somewhere on board saying, "Don't touch that switch," and then someone touches the switch and half the ship starts glowing purple. The verticality is also insane. Every time you think you've seen the whole build, there's another staircase, another hidden room, another level above your head that somehow contains even more detailing. Meanwhile, my own camp has one staircase and somehow still confuses visitors. What really makes this build special is that despite all the complexity, it never feels messy. That's difficult with cyberpunk themes because one wrong move and suddenly your camp looks like a vending machine exploded. But the Akiras somehow balanced chaos and style perfectly. This isn't just a camp, it's an entire atmosphere. It feels like a hidden settlement floating above Appalachia, where smugglers, hackers, raiders, and probably at least one guy selling illegal Nuka-Cola variants all hang out together. Absolutely phenomenal work. Creative, immersive, detailed beyond reason, and visually unforgettable.
Still Game has joined the clash.
Alright Warriors, here we've got Still Game, who decided that instead of building a nice cozy camp like a normal human being, they went full post-apocalyptic OSHA violation and created an abandoned factory. And honestly, this thing looks like tetanus shots should be mandatory before entering. The theming here is ridiculously good. Every single object feels perfectly placed, like they didn't build this camp. They uncovered it after 200 years of industrial neglect. You walk in and immediately feel like you're about to find either a legendary weapon or 3 skeletons holding coffee cups next to a terminal that says, "Management has decided against lunch breaks." The immersion is insane. Half the people touring this build probably forgot they were in Fallout 76 and started wondering if they accidentally loaded into a documentary called Factories That Definitely Violated Safety Regulations. Seriously, the atmosphere is incredible. The lighting is dim, dirty, depressing. Basically, the perfect Fallout experience. You can practically smell the rust through the screen. Somewhere in this factory, there's definitely a leaking pipe making mysterious noises for absolutely no reason other than emotional damage. And can we talk about the clutter placement? Because this builder clearly understands the sacred Fallout law that says, if there's an empty corner, you must place at least 14 random objects there until it looks unsafe. There's debris everywhere, broken machinery, random containers, suspicious puddles, probably asbestos. It's beautiful. What makes this even crazier is that this is a first-time entry. A first-time entry. Meanwhile, some people have been building for 4 years and still produce camps that look like a garage sale crashed into a crafting station. But Still Game comes in here like, oh yeah, I made a fully immersive, abandoned industrial nightmare with cinematic storytelling and environmental detail. Excuse me? You know, a build is good when players stop sprinting around and actually slow down to look at things. People walked into this camp and immediately turned into Fallout archaeologists. Yes, fascinating. This clipboard beside the broken fan truly symbolizes the collapse of capitalism. And honestly, the realism is terrifying. I fully expected a feral ghoul to jump out of a locker at some point. If Bethesda saw this build, they'd probably try to charge atoms for it next season. The best part is how natural everything feels. Nothing looks forced. Every object fits perfectly, like it's always been there. Which is impressive, because most of us place one chair wrong and suddenly the entire camp looks like a confused IKEA showroom. This factory has personality. It tells a story, a very depressing story, but still a story. You can imagine workers clocking in here before the bombs dropped, hating their jobs, surviving on coffee and sadness, unaware that 200 years later, a bunch of Fallout players would walk through saying, wow, this ruined workplace aesthetic is incredible. And somehow, it actually is incredible. So massive respect to Still Game for creating one of the most immersive first-time entries we've seen. This build absolutely nails the Fallout vibe. Gritty, believable, slightly concerning, and probably full of black mold. Fantastic work, amazing attention to detail, and honestly, a little rude to the rest of the competitors to debut this hard on your first try. I also love how every abandoned factory in Fallout always has one perfectly preserved desk fan sitting on a table like it's the most valuable object in human history. Meanwhile, there's a nuclear apocalypse outside and players are like, oh, screws. And let's be honest, half of us exploring this camp weren't appreciating the architecture. We were walking around thinking, can I loot this? Can I scrap this? Why can't I take this clipboard? That's the true Fallout experience right there.
All Hail the Snail by Lady H.
Alright everyone, next up we've got Lady H, who looked at the ruined post-apocalyptic wasteland of Fallout 76 and apparently thought, you know what Appalachia needs? A giant snail. And honestly, correct, because while the rest of us are out here building rusty raider camps, military bunkers, abandoned factories, and enough scrap metal structures to start an HOA violation apocalypse. Lady H decided to build something completely different, a gigantic wasteland snail, and somehow it's both adorable and incredibly cool at the same time. The moment you see this thing, your brain immediately stops functioning for a second because it's so unexpected. You spend the first 10 seconds just trying to process what you're looking at. Like, wait, is that a snail? And then suddenly you're smiling because yes, it is. And it's amazing. This build has so much personality. That's what makes it stand out immediately. In a game full of dark, gritty, scrappy wasteland builds, Lady H went in a completely different direction and created something playful, creative, weird, and unforgettable. And honestly, that's a massive win because originality is hard in Fallout 76. At this point, we've all seen abandoned warehouses, raider forts, Brotherhood bunkers, junk camps, and approximately 9 million floating cube houses. But a giant wasteland snail? Now that gets attention. And the execution is fantastic too. This isn't just, oh haha, it's a snail. No, the shaping, the design, the proportions, the detailing, it's all incredibly well done. The shell structure looks great, the body shape works perfectly, and somehow the whole thing feels believable inside Fallout's weird little universe. Like this genuinely feels like something you'd stumble across in Appalachia and immediately mark on your map as important snail location. And honestly, I respect the confidence it takes to build something like this. Because while everyone else is trying to look intimidating, Lady H just rolls up with, behold, snail, absolute power move. And somehow it still fits the Wasteland aesthetic perfectly. It has that scrappy Fallout charm while still feeling creative and unique. That balance is really difficult to pull off. Too silly and the build loses immersion. Too serious and it becomes just another scrap camp. But this hits perfectly in the middle. It's charming without feeling gimmicky. Also, let's be honest, this snail probably has more personality than most NPCs in Fallout 76. You just know players touring this camp immediately became emotionally attached to it. People weren't walking through saying, wow, impressive architecture. They were saying, I would die for this snail. And honestly, same. The best part is how refreshing this build feels. It reminds everyone that camp building doesn't always have to be about realism, military themes, or making your base look like tetanus. Sometimes you can just build something fun, something memorable, something that makes people stop, laugh, and immediately want to take screenshots. And trust me, people are absolutely taking screenshots of this thing because builds like this stick in your memory. Weeks later, people are still gonna be saying, remember the giant snail build? That's how you know a camp worked. Massive respect to Lady H for bringing something completely different to Camp Clash. Creative, adorable, original, and somehow still incredibly cool. A true Wasteland icon. Give it up for Lady H and the legendary giant wasteland snail. Honestly, in a wasteland full of rusty bunkers and scrap piles, a giant adorable snail is exactly the kind of chaos we need.
Gather around for the honorable mentions. Punky Blustered, Silver Bunny, Slog the Frog, Moonlight Cowboy, coup de bras.
Warriors, tonight you stepped onto this stage not just as builders, but as competitors. Over the course of these showcases, we've seen discipline, we've seen determination, we've seen builders push past nerves, trust the build menu, and fight to leave everything they had on this stage. Every performance tonight carried something different. Strength, strategy, intensity, creativity, but they all carried the same goal: to prove yourselves worthy of victory. And that is what makes this moment important, because competitions like this are not won by luck alone. They are earned through preparation, courage, and the willingness to stand in front of everyone here and give everything you have. Tonight, every single builder did exactly that. Some of you came out fearless. Some of you fought through mistakes and kept going. Some of you surprised everyone in this room, but all of you showed the heart of warriors. And warriors understand something important. Victory is not only about the final result. It's about the battle it took to get there, the pressure, the focus, the moments where your camp had to rely on budgets. That is what defines champions. Now, while you've been out here giving your all, the judges have had the difficult task of deciding which team rose above the rest tonight. Scores have been finalized, decisions have been made. In just a few moments, one person will walk away with the title. But before that happens, take in this moment. Look around at the competitors beside you. These are the people who challenged you, pushed you, and made tonight worth fighting for. Because no matter who wins, every builder here earned respect tonight. Now the time has come. Warriors, prepare yourselves. Let's reveal the winner of tonight's competition.
This month is Still Game.
And there we have it. Tonight's champion is Still Game. First of all, let's give one final massive round of applause to our winner. He earned this victory through hard work, focus, creativity, and the courage to step onto this stage and give everything he had. Still Game, enjoy this moment. You fought for it, you earned it, and nobody can take that away from you. But tonight is bigger than one result. Every single builder that stood on this stage tonight proved something important. Competition is not just about winning at the end, it's about the effort you bring, the pressure you overcome, and the way you rise to the challenge when everyone is watching. And tonight, all of you rose to that challenge. We saw determination, we saw leadership, we saw builders refusing to quit even when things didn't go perfectly. That spirit is what made Camp Clash unforgettable, because real warriors are not measured only by trophies. They are measured by resilience, by discipline, and by the way they build a camp. Tonight, this room was filled with that spirit. Events like this are built by people willing to give their energy and commitment to something bigger than themselves. And years from now, you may not remember every score or every detail of tonight. But you will remember the feeling, the adrenaline before getting your camp judged, the pride of standing beside your fellow builders after giving everything you had. That is what makes a show like this matter. So whether you leave tonight with a trophy or with experience, leave knowing that you were part of something powerful. Keep competing, keep improving, keep showing the heart of warriors. And remember, try your luck over at the weekly Camp Top 5. I bet Bunny would love to see your camp as well. Thank you all for an incredible show. Rest well, and we'll see you at the next challenge. Next month, we are celebrating the first anniversary of Camp Clash. I can't believe we survived 1 year of chaos already.
If you had fun, don't forget to join our Discord. Link is in the description, so you can be part of the next competition. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future events, builds, and whatever chaos we decide to host next.
Attention warriors, Camp Clash is getting a complete overhaul. Don't worry, it's still the same beautiful chaos you know and love. We've just taken the old package, thrown on some fresh paint, pressed a few mysterious buttons, and called it an overhaul. Same show, different package, because apparently if it ain't broke, redesign it anyway is now our official strategy. And while you're here, give this video some hype. It's completely free, just swipe to the side in the comment section, and every like, comment, and share helps the channel grow so I can keep making Camp Clash even more awesome.